Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Rural Report. This is a summer edition. I am Cait Caughey, and I am the beginning farmer and market associate here at the center. A lot of the work I do centers around working to help develop skill sets for our local farmers across the state of Nebraska and teaching workshops and doing education and networking with farmers markets and other entities that focus on local foods. So today our topic is challenges that beginning farmers in Nebraska are facing. And we have two business owners here who are going to share a little bit about how the growing season is going right now and what sorts of things they are experiencing related to both climate change and weather and the environment, as well as in their businesses, looking at things like inflation and shortages. So I'm really pleased to have these two women business owners from Nebraska here with us today. I first am just going to ask them to introduce themselves. So Allie, if you could share a little bit about your business, its name, where you're located, and kind of what you produce and what you raise.
Sure. I'm Allie Yankee, and our business is called The Perennial Homestead. We're based in Omaha, Nebraska, and some of the main things that we produce are value-added goods. We do a lot of herb salts and herb seasoning blends, and we market them both through our online store, and then we have an on-site honor system farm stand that's at the end of our driveway at our homestead. And that's our primary outlet during the summer months. And then our online store really picks up for the holidays.
Awesome. Katie, do you want to go?
I'm Katie Jansen, and I have West End Farm, which is near Plymouth, Nebraska, in the southeast part of the state. I raise 50 different kinds of vegetables, melons, berries, and herbs, plus honey from our beehives. And then I also sell a little bit of jams and baked goods made with our produce as well. Most of my products are sold through a CSA, which stands for Community Supported Agriculture. It's like a vegetable subscription. So that's where the bulk of my products go. That runs, it has 3 seasons. It runs in its entirety from the beginning of May through the middle of November. Any additional produce I have during that time is sold at the Beatrice Farmers Market. And then I also have a web store on my website, and I have neighbors that stop by and want to buy stuff every now and then, but the bulk of my products are sold through the CSA.
Great, thanks for sharing. So the first question I have today is, how's the growing season going? And you could answer that in any way you would like. Is there anything that you're noticing that's different? And then the second part to that question is, in the past seasons or now, what are you noticing with climate change and how that relates to like what you're producing and raising?
So Allie here, we are both my husband and I have been growing in some form at some location for the last 10 years, together for the last 6. And at this location for the last 5. And I feel like having that experience has helped me to be able to respond to some of the climate shifts that we're experiencing. My first year, 10 years ago, it was a drought year, and I was wholly unprepared for what that meant. And I do feel like having the experience of all those years has helped me be prepared for the different changes. This growing season generally is going pretty well for us, though it was kind of a cool and cold spring, which made it difficult for us to get into plants into the ground, and things were a little bit slower to get started. But yeah, at this point, I actually feel like it's going pretty well. Like I said, the cool spring has slowed things down a little bit, but otherwise, yeah, it's been really hot.
Yeah.
It's been really hot recently. And I don't know. It's
That's
not
great.
the first
Yeah.
season.
Yeah, Katie, what about you?
I agree. I definitely noticed the cold spring. A lot of my perennial crops were quite a bit later. My asparagus was 3 weeks later than it's usually expected. So that can pose a challenge when you're banking on having that crop at a certain time of year based on all your prior years of experience. It slowed down the strawberries as well. But I would say on the whole, what I understand is that general trends in the Midwest are that with changing climate, we're going to be experiencing hotter, drier summers, which certainly feels like it today, but it's a broad pattern. And we'll probably also see more severe weather events, bigger rainstorms. I'm thinking of two other fairly severe things that have happened in the last year. Just in December, we had a massive, crazy windstorm, 86 miles an hour here. It was more elsewhere. So that was a little challenging. And then a month ago in Beatrice, which is about 12 miles away from the farm, they had 4-inch hail. So that was pretty massively damaging. Fortunately, we didn't have any here at the farm. But with those types of events happening, that's starting to make me think about, what do I need to plan for? How do I adjust what I'm doing, which is really hard because it's the whole point of this is that it's unpredictable and you don't know what's going to happen. But it can affect even little things like, when do certain pests show up for the year based on heat or how wet or dry it has been. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration with climate change and how that would affect a farm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I absolutely think that it makes us think about, how do we become more resilient and prepared for these things and for the uncertainty of major weather events, et cetera. I'm curious, is there anything that you all feel like, what would really help your businesses? What could be supportive that would help make your business more resilient? I mean, obviously, we don't know exactly what climate change is going to bring and what that's going to look like. Thankfully, there are experts out there researching. But yeah, do you have any ideas on how like young beginning farmers in Nebraska could receive support and what that might look like for your business?
Katie here. I'm thinking of, the more information you have, the better prepared you can be generally. And so that's something I tried to take into consideration when I was planning layouts and infrastructure and things on my farm. I built a high tunnel last winter, so I've had it for a little over a year now. And I spent a lot of time researching how I could build that as structurally sound as possible, because I knew we'd get a lot of wind. I wasn't banking on the 86 mile an hour wind, but it did survive. And so information is helpful, I think, for people who are trying to research how to make their farms resilient. So for me, having information available about how to build a high tunnel that can withstand a heavy snow load or strong winds, things like irrigation, how can you design your farm layout to best take advantage of whatever irrigation is needed, whether that's drip irrigation that will conserve water or overhead irrigation that will allow you to cool crops down when it gets super hot. So I think it would be helpful, especially for beginning farmers, if there was a resource or a kind of a collection of resources of information about how to design a farm with climate change in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Allie, do you have anything you want to add?
I was just going to add that I know our business structure is a little different because we grow quite a lot of the ingredients that go into our products, but we also source some from local farmers. So that's allowed us to remain a little more protected from extreme things like hail or that kind of damages, because if we have a crop failure or if something comes through, we're able to reach out to our community of other farmers that we know in the area to source different ingredients. And something that we've done for when we calculate the prices for our products is that I have reached out to a few different producers that we source from and put together on the back end like a list of the prices for those ingredients, so that anytime I'm creating a price for something that, say, we're growing the ingredients for, I'm not just like throwing an arrow or a dart at a random board and hoping that it lands on the right number for the price, but creating a price that accurately reflects what it would cost if we didn't have success growing, say, basil, and we had to source it from another farmer. I know that I can do that, and then it won't cause us to lose money on the end product if we're making something and buying all of the ingredients, for example. But so I think that's just something to be prepared for if you're doing something that you need to source from other growers, is making sure that you can do that without it shifting your overall price structure. But again, that's a little specific to doing like a value added product, and not quite the same if you're doing a CSA. Hopefully you're not having to source from other growers, and hopefully your customers are also in the know of what it means to be a CSA member and accept that shared risk of the potential of crop loss due to climate change or climate things that happen in the weather as well.
Yeah, I really like, I mean, I think those points are really awesome. I think you're highlighting this idea of like a cooperative structure and how that can actually help farmers, business owners be more resilient, you know, in the light of what potential crop loss or what could happen. And then I really like, Katie, how you're mentioning structures and, you know, just other practices and techniques that farmers can utilize, best practices, how to build things and how to be as prepared as you can out in the field. Those are absolutely things we need more funding for, and definitely more support.
And I would say,
go
I
ahead.
want to jump in with one more thing. I would say
Yeah.
this is not specific to either of our businesses, even on a large scale. If you're doing a whole lot of soybeans or something, climate change will affect that too. And so I think it's really important to be thinking about, how can we make the soil more resilient? If we're going to have hot, dry summers, but maybe get 5 inches of rain all at once, how do we make our soil able to handle that? Are we cover cropping? What are we doing to add organic matter that can increase the water holding capacity of that soil? And what are we doing to diversify? Because like Ali said, we can have a whole lot of crop failure for a whole lot of different reasons. And so if all your eggs are in one basket, that can be a big problem when you get a hailstorm.
Absolutely. Thank you. You just, yeah. Not to pivot to another gigantic topic, but we're going to wrap this up here in just a few minutes. And so the other element I want to talk about related to this growing season and now is how is inflation and or shortages affecting your businesses? What are you seeing? How are you navigating that? How are you planning for that? Allie, do you want to go first and talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so our business relies on a few income or inputs like packaging specifically, and then like for our herb salts, we order salt in bulk, which comes from a larger company. And the salt, thankfully, has been pretty consistent in terms of arriving on time and not having any delays. But all of our packaging over the course of the last 2 years, at least, has either been delayed or significantly increased in price. So it's definitely forced us to look at that. Shipping costs have gone up for our business to be able to send products to people like our online customers. And so we've done the best that we can to look at those costs critically and adjust our prices accordingly, while also trying to make our products remain accessible to our customers. It's been a cool thing in the sense that it pushes us to really examine absolutely every decision, but it's also very tedious because obviously when you're growing things in the field, that requires constant care and planning. And then when you're also having to like revisit all the things that you've put into motion and you feel like they're kind of consistent and you don't have to consider them all the time. And then you have to like go back to the drawing board on finding a source for jars when you thought you'd be able to order them from the same producer again at the same price. It does add more work to the day and more uncertainty. I've tried to then order larger bulk orders at one time so that I know that at least for a certain window of time, I'll be prepared. And then in the off time, look for a variety of different, I guess, similar to like looking at the network of people that we're sourcing from for growers, also looking to have a diverse source for different packaging solutions so that if one is not available, then we can pivot and source from another person without compromising our values. So yeah, it's definitely affected our business, and all of our prices have had to go up in the last year.
Yeah, a lot to consider. What about you, Katie, on your farm?
I agree with the packaging thing. That's definitely been a challenge. Basically, across the board, everything I've been ordering has been more expensive. Seeds, soil amendments, bags for my produce, honey bottles. The cost to ship the honey bottles has been astronomical. Gas to drive to the farmer's market. I just needed some more harvest containers, and they are twice the price of what they were when I bought them a few years ago. So yeah, that's been a challenge for sure. Costs have really gone up on some specific products. And then some things you just can't get. They're so delayed. We got a lot of things going on, and crops don't exactly wait for a certain kind of bag or something to arrive. So yeah, I've had to pivot and find different suppliers for bags and boxes and that type of thing as well. And the thing I worry about is, so yes, I've had to increase prices as well. Fortunately, I'm not super packaging dependent for most of my products. I don't have to put zucchini in a bottle or anything like that, but things do go in packaging. The seeds to grow them are more expensive. So I've had to raise my prices as well. And I wonder, because, farmers aren't the only ones affected by inflation. All of the customers are as well. So at what point are they going to decide that our prices are now out of their reach? Because we are doing specialty products. They can go to Walmart and get a cheaper version of basically everything I'm growing. Not some of the really unusual stuff, but in general, there are other options. So the question is, how do I continue to communicate the value that is in my crop beyond just the price?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like customers are positively responding or supportive, or have you noticed anything as you're, just as someone who also markets and sells items and has in the past, going to a farmer's market and having someone be frustrated at a bunch of $2 radishes, for example? What are you kind of seeing this year with your customers?
On the whole, there haven't been too many complaints. Most people get it. Most people understand. And I haven't had to do any drastic price jumps, fortunately. You'll always have a few people who complain no matter what the price is, but those aren't really your customers anyway. So fortunately, people have been pretty supportive this year.
Great. Do you have anything you want to add, Allie?
No, I would say similarly, people are pretty respectful of the price changes. I guess I understand that it can be challenging when prices go up for customers, because it's challenging for me when prices go up for things that I'm regularly buying. So I've tried to, in the best way possible, meet the customers in the middle and not put all of the burden on them. But obviously we're a small business, and so I can't take the whole burden on. So for example, with our shipping cost, after shipping costs went up a lot last fall before the holiday season, I looked at all of my orders and all of the cost of the shipping and what the average was. And I was able to use that as kind of a new benchmark for we switched to flat rate shipping, because then it spread it out a little bit more. And then we offered a discount or free shipping if it was above a certain price point, which essentially was a 10% off coupon, is kind of how it works out from the financial aspect. And so it also helped to encourage our customers to buy more at one time instead of just small one item things. And I definitely noticed that that's what our orders used to be. People would order one thing, and the shipping, I would end up eating a lot of the costs and it wouldn't be worth it. And now that I've shifted to doing the flat rate shipping and then being really transparent about, this is what our flat rate shipping cost is. I have a clause on our website that talks about the shipping cost, and that often we end up paying more for it anyways, but we wanted to share that with the customer. and then having the like transparent, like it's free shipping over this price point, I noticed that a lot more of our customers are taking advantage of that. And it ends up being beneficial, I think, then for both of us, because we're using our time more efficiently to process those orders and not spending all of our money on shipping things one at a time. So I think just transparency is such an important thing with any of it, like communicating with your customers and, you know, really emphasizing the fact that we are also people that know what it feels like to have prices go up, and that we value our customers is important.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. We're gonna wrap this up, and I just want to say thank you. We could probably continue this conversation, and I would love to. Thank you so much for what you both do. I know the hard work that goes into it, and just listen to how innovative you all are and creative, and you're working to find solutions and communicate with your customers because you really care. And thank you for what you grow and raise in our state. We really need it and appreciate it. Last but not least, could you both just share your webpage, your social media, so that we make sure, we'll also tag it here, but we just want to make sure that folks are following you and getting in touch and buying the beautiful things that you make and grow. Allie, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, our website is theperennialhomestead.com, and you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Perennial Homestead.
Awesome. And Katie?
And mine, the website is West End Farm NE, like Nebraska.com. And you can also find me on Facebook, West End Farm NE.
Great. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining me today for the Rural Report. I really appreciate it.